have tried to tell this story out loud 4 times and stopped myself midway every time. Not because I don't believe what I saw, because every time I get to the part about the size of it, the cold comes back. That specific cold. February before sunrise on a frozen lake, miles from anywhere. And I don't want that cold back in a warm room. I'm 45, I'm from Duluth, Minnesota, and I've been ice fishing since I was 7 years old. Some years I'm on the ice 50 days. I know what that environment sounds like, what it looks like, how things move across it. I have been cold and alone on frozen lakes in the dark, more times than I can count, and I have never been frightened. February, 3 years ago. I was on a lake I won't name, well out, maybe 4 miles from the nearest road. 5:45 a.m., still dark. I'd been set up in my portable shelter for about 40 minutes with lines in the water. The ice was solid. The temperature was about -18. The silence on a frozen lake at that hour is total in a way that's hard to describe. You can hear your own heartbeat. That's how I heard it. Because of that silence, something moving on the ice to my north, not toward me, moving east. A sound I don't have a clean word for. Not footsteps, not dragging. Somewhere between the two. Sustained and rhythmic at an even pace, moving across the ice with the specific acoustic quality of something large displacing weight as it moves. I unzipped the shelter and pointed my headlamp north. The beam reaches about 30 meters on open ice. At the edge of it, right at the limit of what the light could show me, something was moving east across the lake. I'm not going to tell you what I think it was. I've made a decision about that for my own mental health, and I'm sticking to it. What I will tell you is that it was large in a way that I measured against the known scale of the ice and the tree line, and what I came up with kept being wrong, so I measured again. And the number I arrived at both times is one I'm not going to say. It didn't react to the light, didn't change pace, didn't look toward the beam, crossed through the edge of my headlamp and continued east, and was gone into the dark beyond my range. I sat in that shelter for 2.5 hours until full daylight, without touching a rod. I packed up and left at first light. I've been back to that lake. Not in February, not before sunrise, not alone. I've been back in groups in the afternoon, and it looks and feels like a completely ordinary frozen lake. And every time I'm out there, I face east, and I watch the ice, and I wonder where it goes in the daytime. Whatever it was, it belongs to those hours before dawn, before the world wakes up and asserts its normalcy. I keep starting to tell this story. I keep stopping at the size of it. I walked for 45 minutes on a marked linear trail and arrived back at the same landmark I'd started from, then turned around, walked 40 more minutes, and arrived there again. My GPS placed me exactly where I should have been the entire time. A parks ranger came to walk me out, set a pace that told me he wanted to leave quickly, and never explained why. I'm 31. I hike out of Bend, Oregon. Experienced hiker. I know how to navigate, I know how to read terrain. I've done trails in 4 countries. What I'm going to describe happened on a marked trail in a national forest 2 summers ago, and I have not been able to explain it using any framework that works. Clear July day, well-marked trail, 8-mile loop. I'd done it once before. Set out at 8 a.m. with full kit, phone charged, map downloaded, emergency locator. First 2 hours, completely normal, exactly as I remembered the trail. At the 2-hour mark, I reached a distinctive rock formation I recognized as the halfway point. A split boulder with a dead silver birch growing out of the crack, very identifiable. I rested 15 minutes, drank water, set off. At the 3-hour mark, I came around a bend and the rock formation was in front of me. Same formation, same split, same dead silver birch, same patch of lichen on the upper face. I stood there for a long time. I took a photo. I still have it. Same rock, same angle, different timestamp on my phone. I turned around and walked back the direction I'd come. 40 minutes later, the same formation. I sat down on a log and I drank most of my remaining water, and I thought about this very carefully. I am not a person who panics. I applied logic. The trail is a marked loop. I cannot be on a linear stretch and arrive at the same point from 2 directions. The GPS said I was at the correct location. The GPS also said my location had barely changed in nearly 2 hours of walking. I called the ranger station on my satellite device. They talked me through my coordinates, confirmed I was at the halfway point, said they'd send someone. The ranger who came to walk me out arrived in about 20 minutes. He didn't seem surprised to find me. He set a pace from the first step that was faster than comfortable, and he talked the whole way. Weather, trail conditions, wildlife sightings, in the way someone talks when they want to fill the air and not leave space for other questions. 90 minutes from the formation to the trailhead should have been 45. I mentioned this discrepancy. He said trails can feel deceptive in terms of time. He said it looking straight ahead. Before we reached the car park, I asked him directly, "Does this kind of thing happen here?" He was quiet for a few steps. Then he said, "Some areas have more reports than others." That's all he would give me. I've looked into this on my own since. There's language in some communities for places where geography doesn't behave, where a person can walk without arriving. I'm not going to use that language because it belongs to people it doesn't belong to me. But those places have names, and rangers who work in them know the names. He knew. My friend made a moose call as a joke. Something across the lake answered back. 20 minutes later, it answered again from closer. By 2 a.m., it was 10 meters from our tents, using the exact same call we'd made, directing it inward at us. I'm 29. I was on a canoe trip in the Boundary Waters Wilderness in Minnesota with 2 friends last summer. Second night of the trip. This is the night we learned not to do something. Kyle had watched a video about calling moose. He wanted to try it. He made the call, a long, low sound. We laughed, waited, heard nothing, went back to our conversation around the fire, forgot about it. 20 minutes later, from the far shore of the lake, something answered, and we all stopped talking. Not a moose. We've all heard moose. This was lower, longer, and had a quality that I've turned over in my head since. The quality of a sound that understands what it's responding to. Not an animal making a sound because it makes sounds. Something that had heard ours, processed it, and was using the same frequency back at us. Deliberately. Kyle made the call again. The answer came back from across the water, closer this time. Clearly closer. None of us were laughing. Dev said we should stop. Kyle was already nodding. We doused the fire and got into our tents. I fell asleep. I think I fell asleep. I woke up at around 2 a.m. I'm not sure exactly what woke me, whether it was a sound or something else, and immediately I was aware of something outside. Footsteps. Around the perimeter of the camp. Slow, full circuit. I tracked them going around the north side, past the water's edge, around the south, all the way around, one full circuit. The weight distribution wasn't right for 4 legs. The spacing wasn't right for 4 legs. They stopped. Then the call from 10 meters away, aimed inward. Our call, the sound Kyle had made, coming from right outside the tents and directed at us. And it was closer than across a lake. I could hear the quality of it differently at that distance. There was something wet in it, something physical, like something producing sound with actual anatomy rather than across water. Dev started to unzip his tent. Kyle hissed at him not to. He stopped at the zipper. One more call, same distance, same direction. Then footsteps withdrawing toward the lake, slowly getting quieter, fading into nothing. We broke camp before first light and paddled hard to a different site. We didn't talk about it for 3 days until we were back in the car at the put-in. When we finally talked, all 3 of us had heard the same things. All 3 of us had arrived at the same conclusion independently. Whatever heard Kyle that first night learned the sound in about 20 minutes and came to use it against us. I don't make wildlife calls anymore, not in any backcountry. Not as a joke, not out of curiosity, not for any reason at all. Not because I think something will hear me. Because I know something will, and I know it learns fast, and I know it comes close. Something walked across the roof of our hunting cabin at 11:30 p.m. End to end, 8 steps. Then stepped off the south edge, and I heard it land. In the morning, there were impressions in the frost on the roof. Not boots, not paws, not anything any of us could name. We've gone back every year. We've never heard it again. But we all stay up later now, and none of us has said why. I'm 52. I've hunted with the same 4 men for over 20 years. Our camp is a 4-room cabin in the Adirondacks in upstate New York. Propane heat, 1 generator. Good solid building we've put real work into. I know every sound it makes. I'm the one who stays up late. Always have been. The others are in bed by 10. I sit by the wood stove until midnight sometimes, just decompressing from the day. 20 years of that pattern. 3 seasons back, 11:30 p.m., alone by the stove. Something stepped onto the roof at the north end. I want to be precise, not branches. The nearest tree to the roofline is about 30 feet away. Not ice shifting, not the building settling. This was footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, slow, from the north end of the cabin moving toward the south. I sat very still and I counted. 8 steps. Each one a distinct impact on the metal roof, the way weight sounds different from material movement. At 8 steps, it reached the south edge. And then it stepped off. I heard it land. 1 impact on the frozen ground below. The sound of something with significant mass landing from a height. Then nothing. I went and woke the others. We grabbed flashlights and rifles and went outside. South side of the cabin, nothing. The frost on the ground was solid. Anything landing there should have left a mark. Nothing. We put our lights on the roof from the north side. The frost was disturbed. Impressions, coming from the north end of the roof line, moving south. 8 of them. I have looked at a lot of animal tracks in my life. I have looked at bear tracks, deer tracks, coyote, fox, fisher. I have never in my life seen a track shaped like what was on that roof. We couldn't identify them, all 5 of us looking at them, and none of us could say what made them. We've been back every hunting season since. Never heard it again. The roof is unmarked every morning. But here's what I've noticed 3 seasons running on the first night at camp. Without any of us saying anything, everyone stays up a bit later. The others, who usually go to bed at 10, are up at 11. The ones who'd go at 9 are up at 10. Nobody says why. Nobody acknowledges it. But we all listen to the roof a little longer before we close our eyes. Something followed me through the bush for over 200 meters on a portage trail at dusk. It matched my pace. It stopped when I stopped. When I finally broke through to the lake, it stopped at the tree line and didn't follow further. In the morning, I found the undergrowth crushed flat along the entire 200-meter route it had taken. I'm 26. This was my first solo canoe trip in the Quetico Wilderness in Ontario last summer. I was properly equipped. I had a trip plan filed. I was experienced from group trips. I just made one mistake. I started a long portage too late in the afternoon and hit the far end at dusk instead of mid-afternoon. 1.4 kilometers, muddy from recent rain, lots of exposed route. With a canoe on my shoulders, I watch my feet, not the trail ahead. You have to. I was about 2/3 through when I heard footsteps coming toward me on the trail. Someone else on the portage. Normal. I stopped to let them pass, stepped to one side to give room, standard trail etiquette. Nobody came around the bend. I waited for maybe 30 seconds. The footsteps had stopped when I stopped. I started walking again. They started again, still coming toward me, same direction, same pace. I stopped, they stopped. I put the canoe down, stood up straight, cleared my throat loudly. Silence, just the forest. I picked the canoe back up and started walking as quickly as I could manage. And the footsteps started, but they weren't coming toward me anymore. They were parallel. To my left, in the undergrowth, keeping pace with me through the dense bush. I could hear branches, compressed fern, the sound of something navigating solid undergrowth and matching my speed on the open trail without effort. I did not stop. I did not look left. I walked as fast as I have ever walked with a canoe on my shoulders, and I focused on the spot where the trail broke through to the lake, and I counted my steps, and I moved, and it moved with me, all the way, right to the water's edge, and then it stopped. I came out of the tree line and I dropped the canoe on the shore and I turned around and looked at the trail opening. Nothing. The trail was empty. I didn't go back for my pack until sunrise. When I went back through the portage in the morning, the trail itself was clear, but the undergrowth to the left, along about 230 meters of it, was disturbed. Bent branches, crushed ferns, the kind of sustained disturbance that happens when something has been moving through an area with direction and pace. Something had been there, something that had followed me to the water and stopped there. I've thought a lot about why it stopped at the water's edge. I've come up with a few theories, but none of them make me feel any better. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.